Hi, and welcome to episode 81 of Toke Signals TV, where we bring you the biggest in cannabis and hemp news stories every week. I'm Steve Elliott, the editor at tokesignals.com, and I'll be guiding you through the news. First of all, let's take a look at our Toke Signals Bud Pick of the Week. I had the distinct pleasure this week of being one of the VIP judges. There were 5 of us at the Dope Cup Awards in Seattle for Seattle-based Dope Magazine, a well-run event by a well-run magazine. And kudos to Mr. David Tran for this successful event. One of the 10 entries, which I judged with some help from Lisa, was entry number 7, which you see pictured here. It is our Bud Pick of the Week, and look at those purple highlights, just gorgeous. Let's do the news now, shall we? Big news from the United States once again this week, where a bill was introduced in Congress which would allow states to determine their own marijuana laws. Imagine that. U.S. Representative Dana Rohrabacher, a Republican from California, and 5 Republican co-sponsors on Tuesday introduced legislation in Congress that would modify the Federal Controlled Substances Act so that anyone acting in compliance with a state marijuana law would be immune from federal prosecution. It's called the Respect State Marijuana Laws Act of 2015, and it would apply to all marijuana-related activities, medical and non-medical, in the states in which they are authorized. Republican co-sponsors of the reintroduced 2015 bill include Representatives Justin Amash from Michigan, Duncan Hunter from California, Thomas Massey from Kentucky, Tom McClintock, and Don Young from Alaska. Democratic co-sponsors include Representatives Earl Blumenauer from Oregon, Steve Cohen from Tennessee, Dina Titus from Nevada, Janice Schakowsky from Illinois, Jared Polis from Colorado, and Mark Pokin from Wisconsin. 4 states, as we know, have already adopted laws regulating marijuana similarly to alcohol: Alaska, Colorado, Oregon, and Washington. 23 states, the District of Columbia, and the U.S. territory of Guam have adopted laws allowing the use of marijuana for medical purposes. 2 out of 3 Americans, a full 67%, think Congress should pass a bill to make states that tightly regulate marijuana a safe haven from federal marijuana laws, according to a report released in January by Third Way, a centrist think tank. Unlike other bills that address only some aspects of the conflict between state and federal marijuana laws, this bill resolves the issue entirely by letting states determine their own policies, according to Dan Riffle, Director of Federal Policies for the Marijuana Policy Project. It's the strongest federal legislation introduced to date, and it's the bill most likely to pass in a Republican-controlled Congress, according to Riffle. Nearly every GOP presidential contender has said marijuana policy should be a state issue, not a federal one, essentially endorsing this bill. National polls are repeatedly finding that a majority of Americans understand marijuana is less harmful than alcohol and should be treated that way, according to Riffle. Marijuana is already legal in 4 states, and at least 5 more are expected to join them within the next 2 years. Marijuana prohibition is one of the most disastrous public policy failures of the last 50 years, Riffle pointed out. It's time for Congress to give states the room they need to pursue more rational alternatives, like regulating and taxing marijuana. There are few principles more fundamental to the Republican Party than states' rights, said Major Neil Franklin, Executive Director for Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, LEAP, a group of cops and other criminal justice professionals opposed to the drug war. Allowing states to decide their own marijuana policy both fits with party ideology and makes much more sense than the laws currently on the books, according to Franklin. But until Congress decides to change the law, all assurances of non-intervention from the federal government may prove meaningless. Also in the states this week, the Senate confirmed Loretta Lynch for Attorney General. The U.S. Senate on Thursday afternoon confirmed the nomination of Loretta Lynch to replace Eric Holder as Attorney General in a 56-43 vote. The results of the vote have been highly anticipated, as significant partisan bickering had stalled her appointment for months. Now, Lynch is the first African-American woman to hold the office of Attorney General, the nation's top law enforcement position, and head of the Department of Justice. Her statements made in the senatorial confirmation hearing indicate she intends to follow Holder's legacy of prioritizing civil rights. Criminal justice experts hope this means she will continue and expand the drug policy reforms enacted by her predecessor. Loretta Lynch will hopefully continue the more positive aspects of Eric Holder's legacy, said Major Neil Franklin of LEAP, the criminal justice group opposed to the drug war. We hope she continues to restore sanity and dignity to the profession of policing by de-escalating the war on drugs and allowing states to proceed with marijuana legalization. Lynch is well known for her work with a team of prosecutors who charged NYPD officers for the brutal assault of Haitian immigrant Abner Louima back in 1997. But opponents questioned her nomination after she failed to criminally charge HSBC bank leaders for laundering money for drug cartels and other terrorist organizations despite the bank's own guilty admission. During Eric Holder's 6-year term, he opened investigations into the misuse of force and racial profiling by Ferguson police in the aftermath of the shooting of unarmed teenager Michael Brown, as well as other investigations into corrupt law enforcement practices. Holder has also reduced federal penalties for nonviolent drug offenders and has been outspoken about a need to rethink the war on drugs. In her January confirmation hearings, though, Lynch raised the concern of cannabis advocates by saying she does not support marijuana legalization and that she disagrees with President Obama's remarks about cannabis being no more dangerous than alcohol. I can tell you that not only do I not support legalization of marijuana, it is not the position of the Department of Justice currently to support legalization, nor would it be the position if I were confirmed as Attorney General, Lynch said at those January confirmation hearings. Now, in August 2013, Holder released a memo stating that the Department of Justice would no longer go after states that choose to legalize marijuana as long as the new resulting businesses abide by certain guidelines, such as not selling to minors and not being involved in organized criminal activity, particularly interstate commerce in marijuana. Additionally, given a stipulation in the recently passed federal omnibus spending bill, the DOJ can no longer go after states that permit medical marijuana. Also in the United States, another story where presidential candidate Marco Rubio wants to enforce federal law in marijuana states. Prospective candidates for the Republican presidential nomination continued their baffling verbal assault on cannabis this week, as Florida Senator Marco Rubio joined Chris Christie in pledging a federal crackdown on states that have legalized marijuana. Asked by radio host Hugh Hewitt if he would enforce the federal drug laws and shut down the marijuana trade, Rubio answered, I think we need to enforce our federal laws. Now, do states have a right to do what they want? They don't agree with it, but they have their rights. But they don't have a right to write federal policy as well. I don't believe we should be in the business of legalizing additional intoxicants in this country for the primary reason that when you legalize something, what you're sending a message to young people is, it can't be that bad. Because if it was that bad, it wouldn't be legal, said Rubio, revealing his distressingly murky thought process around this subject. In addition to enforcing the rest of the Controlled Substances Act, U.S. attorneys are still pursuing marijuana cases in Colorado and Washington, just not in a way that shuts down the state legal industry, said Jacob Sullum at Reason magazine. Rubio apparently opposes that policy of prosecutorial forbearance. Rubio seems a little unsure of his stance on states' rights as a conservative Tea Party Republican. He's supposed to support them. And in fact, his spokesman, Alex Conant, told Politico back in January, of course states can make decisions about what laws they wish to apply within their own borders. That's a significantly more declarative statement than Rubio's states' rights are wonderful but formulation on Hewitt's show, dryly noted Matt Purple at Rare. Rubio has consistently stated that his personal preference is that marijuana not be legalized or decriminalized, reports Purple, though he does understand the need for medical marijuana in limited instances. He refuses to even say whether he's ever tried cannabis himself. In Oregon this week, what legalization? Police are asking for $5 million for marijuana enforcement. Advocates may rightly be asking the question, what legalization, after the Oregon State Police requested a $3.9 million budget increase to go after marijuana. The OSP wants the money for 2015 through 2017 to pay for 11 full-time troopers and detectives to go after pot. Since that's in addition to the $1.3 million the state police already requested for a legal marijuana enforcement budget earlier this year, one can't help asking oneself, where are the savings in marijuana enforcement that supposedly come with legalization? The state police have declined to comment. The OSP request comes after a proposal by the Oregon Liquor Control Commission, put in charge of implementing cannabis legalization, to create peace officers to patrol legal cannabis, investigate black market sales, enforce weed taxes, and stop sales to minors. The OLCC is aware of the state police's request and expects the two agencies to work together on enforcing the state's marijuana laws, claimed Liquor Control spokesman Tim Tosley. We can see the need to have somebody from the state police here in the OLCC to handle the dispatch, Tosley said, referring to an officer who could field calls from state troopers checking the licenses of people found with large quantities of marijuana. The Oregon legislature is already considering a possible $10.5 million two-year budget for the OLCC's legal cannabis program. They would have to approve the state police request for $5 million more. And in Pennsylvania this week, a medical marijuana bill clears a Senate committee. A bill which will legalize the medical use of marijuana in the Keystone State unanimously passed a Pennsylvania Senate committee on Tuesday. The bill, which will allow cannabis use for those with qualifying medical conditions, will likely face two more hurdles in early May. A bipartisan committee passed Senate Bill 3, proposed by Democratic Senator Dalen Leach and Republican Senator Mike Fulmer, on a 10-0 vote, moving it on to the Senate Appropriations Committee. If it passes that committee, the bill would move to the Senate floor. Both of those things should happen in early May, according to Senator Leach. SB 3 easily made it through the state Senate in 2014, passing with a 47-3 vote, but it stalled after the House didn't take it up. Lawmakers in support of legalizing medical marijuana said they are more optimistic this time around. Fulmer said he hopes the bill can reach the desk of Governor Tom Wolf before lawmakers take their summer recess. That likely means convincing House members to get on board before the scheduled time off this summer. The bill has been revised from the version that failed to pass last year. A real-time registry has been added to better track medical marijuana cards, and a list of covered conditions has been expanded. Inexplicably, cannabis edibles were removed from the list of permitted items. Governor Wolf said he would sign the bill if it reaches his desk. A poll earlier this month found that 88% of Pennsylvanians support medical marijuana. In Ohio this week, a group is close to getting legalization on the ballot, but they're accused of sabotaging another grassroots effort. The group Responsible Ohio claims it is more than halfway towards its goal of getting marijuana legalization on the state ballot, but advocates trying to put a rival initiative on the ballot have accused its founders of sabotaging its smaller, weaker competitor last year before launching its own effort. We have over 160,000 signatures, said Ian James of Responsible Ohio. By the end of this week, we'll have over 200,000. We're shooting for 700,000 signatures. But in an April 14th complaint to the Ohio Elections Commission, Ohio Rights Group said the people who went on to create Responsible Ohio infiltrated the ORG to get information and talk potential donors out of making contributions. The complaint accuses Ian James and David Bruno of promising help to ORG, then using the knowledge gained to form their own group. Now, according to the complaint, Bruno used his childhood friendship with ORG Executive Director John Pardee to gain knowledge, and Bruno was taking consultants' fees from ORG while planning Responsible Ohio. Responsible Ohio is seen as a corporate cannabis group, and it admits it pays signature gatherers. This is going from the tie-dye to the suit-and-tie approach to marijuana legalization, according to James. Spokesman Lydia Bolander of Responsible Ohio scoffed at the accusations. She said it's a bogus complaint, and in their filing they described their own campaign as crippled, and now they're blaming others. Responsible Ohio is excited to have an excellent team of campaign professionals working to pass marijuana legalization this year, she said. The Grassroots Ohio Rights Group was formed in January 2013 to collect signatures for the Ohio Cannabis Rights Amendment, which would give sick and disabled state residents the right to use marijuana medically and allow farmers to grow industrial hemp. The group got 150,000 signatures, about 50% of what they needed to get on the ballot last year. Responsible Ohio was formed about a year and a half later and pulled together a group of wealthy Ohioans to campaign for a constitutional amendment to establish a marijuana control commission. That plan calls for just 10 farms around the state to grow and control the crop, and for a limited group of entrepreneurs to process, sell, and profit from cannabis. Activists with ORG characterized that plan as creating a marijuana monopoly. In Alabama this week, a medical marijuana bill was passed by a Senate committee, but guess what? It was quickly shot down by a powerful career politician. We have a key senator blocking the medical marijuana bill, saying Alabama is not ready. Yes, medical marijuana may have been passed by an Alabama Senate committee this week, but a powerful politician quickly blocked the way for further progress, declaring the state not ready. The full membership of the Senate won't even get a chance to debate the bill unless he changes his mind. Senator J.B. Wagner, chairman of the Senate Rules Committee, displayed the arrogance of power in disregarding both the Senate Judiciary Committee, which on Wednesday approved the bill 4-3, and popular opinion in Alabama. It is bad legislation, Wagner said, ignoring both the scientific evidence of marijuana's medical effectiveness and the wishes of his own constituents. We don't need that in Alabama, he said. A whopping 97% of more than 1,300 respondents to an online poll said Alabama should allow medical marijuana. More than a decade ago, a poll showed 75% favoring. Wagner, though, is a relic of the 20th century and a career politician who has served in the Alabama legislature for 49 years. And he said he didn't think anything would change his mind about medical marijuana this year. Now, Senate Bill 326 is sponsored by State Senator Bobby Singleton, and it passed the Senate Judiciary Committee 4-3. It was a party line vote. Only Democrats voted in favor, and it likely passed only because 3 Republicans were absent and another abstained. Senator Singleton said he hoped to get the bill to the Senate floor and open a debate on medical marijuana in the state. He said while he respects Mr. Wagner sets the calendar, he's going to plead his case to place the bill on the calendar before the end of this legislative session. Singleton said the climate is right for medical marijuana in Alabama. I don't like to paint Alabama in the dark ages, he said. This is not about a smoke fest. This is about trying to help people. There is a number and an email address in the article if you would like to send your opinion to Senator Wagner about his blockage of medical marijuana in Alabama. So you can check out that story on Hemp News. Alabama key senator blocks medical marijuana bill, says state not ready. Until next week, stay lifted. See you then.